Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. I want to talk to you today about this website and this study. And this is very interesting to me because it was eye-opening in one matter of fact. And it doesn't have to do with tasers or blunt force or any of those other techniques that are in this study, but it has to do with the use of pepper spray. And it was a result that is actually very surprising, and I think you're going to find it very interesting. I think it's important for us to think about this. So this was from 2011, and you can take that for what it's worth. This is 2024 as I'm doing this video. So we're talking about data that's a little old, but when it comes to these less lethal weapons and their use, I really feel that it doesn't change a decade or two later. The data is the data. And so they set out to study various police departments, and I'm not going to go through all of this. You can go to this website and you can read the study. But they asked a really important question: can new technologies decrease injuries? And I think that's a very important question. And they went about it looking at tasers. They're very popular. They looked at pepper spray, and they had officers do reports after incidents, and they took all the data and they analyzed the data, and then look to see whether the person that was being pursued by the police, who is the prospective criminal, was injured during the encounter, or whether the police officer was injured. And there were some observations that you might expect from this. Two of the studies were done in Miami-Dade and Seattle police, so there are two different areas of the United States, and they got different results in some cases. But when they analyzed all the data from many different sites, I think that's when it became most compelling. So I'm going to skip over this part here where they looked at specifically Richland County and Miami-Dade. I'm going to go right to where they looked at a variety of different places and put all the data together, and that's called the combined agency analysis. Now this is, you get more power, the more agencies you look at, obviously the more power you get. Here they looked at a large sample representing 24,000 use of force incidents, so that's a lot of data. And this is from a lot of different geographic regions with different laws and different police forces, 12 different large local law enforcement agencies, so that's very insightful. It tells you a lot. And so they looked at physical force, pepper spray, and various things. And this conclusion right here, I think, is really important to note. Pepper spray and CED use decrease the likelihood of suspect injury by 65 to 70%. So the suspect is protected by using less lethal. That's one of the rationales for using less lethal. So you're going to be more favorable for the suspect. But when you read on, it says, however, while the odds of the officer injury increased by about 21% with pepper spray use. So taking all of the other types of defense tools off the table and just talking about pepper spray in this video, what we're saying here is pepper spray in the hands of police, when it's used, and it's used properly, and it's used in situations where it's warranted, it is effective at not killing the suspect, but the officers are being more at risk of injury because pepper spray is being used. Now, I guess it's all relative. When you say officer increased by about 21%, that's relative to, I guess, them pulling a firearm. So they do talk about that a little bit in this report. Just pulling a firearm, whether it's actually used or not, protected the officer about 80% of the time from any further assault or any further injury. So that's very impressive, and that's what you would expect. It's a game changer. It stops the situation 80% of the time. So that's important to know. But pepper spray, there's some risk, obviously, with using pepper spray. It works, but it may actually have some unintended consequences on you by allowing someone 20% of the time to then attack you, and you're having to deal with that risk. So they did longitudinal analysis of a lot of different cities and interviews with officers, and it's a really interesting study. like right here, nine times out of 109, the taser did not work properly or did not have the desired effect. I guess you could say that's acceptable. It's less than 9%, 8%. But the taser is something that's very popular. And I think what this has shown is that pepper spray does reduce injury to the suspect. The data tells us it does put you at a greater risk, and you have to be careful when you use pepper spray. And we all know that some people are resistant to pepper spray, some people are not. I use it a lot. I carry it every day when I'm out. I think that pepper spray is a great part of the use of force continuum, and it provides a deterrent in order for you to get away. But the most important part is it is very legally wise. It is socially acceptable to use pepper spray these days. It wasn't always the case, but it has become the case. And you can do it, and because it's socially acceptable, that's really important these days, because if it doesn't look like a firearm, it's not shaped like a firearm, it's got a transient effect, and there's not an outcry from the public when you use it, then I think you're more likely to be safe using it legally and without consequences. But pepper spray, overall analysis, 12 agencies showed that it reduced the likelihood of injury to suspects. For officers, however, the use increased the likelihood of injury. This finding was unexpected, and further research may help to explain how officers choose to use pepper spray instead of CEDs. And conducted energy devices, that's a new one for me. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. Different uses of force by police. There's lots of data out there. This is just a tip of the iceberg. It's something that I found, and I thought it would be really helpful to try to understand, even though data is older, things don't change. The OC that's being used now is the same OC that's being used in 2011. The mentality of police and their job has not really changed. All because of size, pepper spray is so convenient. It fits all of the criteria for what you would want in a less lethal. And I feel statistically the odds are that it was going to serve you really well by itself. And whether you need a less lethal launcher, a kinetic launcher, and those kind of escalations of force is subjective, and that's something that you have to make the call. As soon as you pull a firearm-looking shaped device, you are now probably going to be held to the same legal consequences as if you were pulling an actual firearm. I've talked a little bit about what can happen if you're using something like a BB gun, and the same concept applies to a air-powered 68 caliber or a 50 caliber personal protective device, whatever you want to call it. I like the idea of a intermediate level of force between a firearm and a pepper spray. I like it a lot. I talk about it a lot. I own some, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. But just think about it and think about your needs. There is definitely a niche, and I believe there is a need for it. But how many things can you carry? What are you willing to do? How uncomfortable are you willing to be on a day-to-day basis? And then that's the transition from pepper spray to intermediate level of force. And then are you going to even have another level of force? It's a force continuum is great, but choices make life complicated, and simplicity sometimes is the best route. So I err on the side of simplicity right now in my EDC. And let me know what you do. What is your philosophy on EDC? And are you concerned about your injury risk by being underpowered? I think being underpowered is a bad thing, but also being overpowered can be equally as bad a successful self-defense scenario. So let me know. I look forward to talking with you. And I'm going to leave it there for this one. Everybody take care. We'll see you next time.